Several people are feared dead and dozens more have been injured in a crush at a massive religious festival in northern India. Rescue teams have been carrying victims away from the site of the accident, with police trying to manage the crowds. Tens of millions of worshippers have gathered to take a holy dip in the river on the most significant day of Maha Kumbh Mela Festival. Authorities were expecting a record 100 million devotees to visit the site. All right, Charo Karthikeyan joins us for more from Delhi. Charo, what do we know so far?
Stephen, right now only preliminary reports are coming in, but what these reports seem to suggest that a stampede broke out at the Sangam nose. Now, this is specifically the point where the two rivers meet, the Ganges and the Yamuna. And in fact, Hindus believe there's a mythological belief that a third river also exists there in its invisible form. It's called the river Saraswati. So this confluence point of these three rivers is the Sangam nose. The DW teams were there last month, and we did reports from there. And even last month, when the fair had just begun, we could see that that space was not adequate for the huge crowds that were coming in. And today's numbers were anticipated to be much, much larger than what we saw last month. In January, on 14 January, we were there. That was the date of the first auspicious bath. And that day, about 30 million people had converged in Prayagraj at the Kumbh. And today, this was a bath that is supposed to be much holier than the previous one. And today, about 100 million people were anticipated at the Sangam nose. And reports are coming in that apparently it was a failure of crowd management. The huge swelling crowd, they broke a barrier at some place, and after that, stampede took place. Unfortunately, neither the state government nor the federal government has provided any numbers so far. So whatever we are getting in, it's only from unconfirmed media reports. Local media reports have been saying that at least 30 people have been injured. About half of them might have died, but then again, these are unconfirmed reports as of now. The government has not given any figure. So that's the situation. That's what the situation is looking as of now, Stephen.
Right, we're looking at pictures of the festival and the response to what happened there. Massive crowds, obviously quite visible, quite a scale there. Charo, tell us more about the Maha Kumbh Mela and why it brings so many people to it. Well,
Stephen, the Mela or fair takes place at these grounds every year, and that Mela is just a sort of a seasonal fair. Seasonal festival which is held to sort of celebrate the departure of winter and the onset of spring. Every 4 years that converts into Maha Kumbh and into the Kumbh festival. And this year, many believe that because of special planetary alignments, this period arrives only once in 144 years, which is why this was designated as the Maha Kumbh or the Great Kumbh. Government had been advertising for several months now that massive arrangements will be made, and at least 400 million people are going to converge in this small city in Uttar Pradesh. 400 million people over the course of about a month, not in one day. Now, this is a small city. Its population would be roughly around 2 million people. And to cater to a of 400 million people is quite a gigantic task for the administration there, because of which both the state government and the federal government have made several arrangements. A very large area, which is essentially the flood banks of the river, has been converted into a temporary tent city. And when we were there last month, what we saw was that elaborate arrangements had been made. Pontoon bridges had been laid out, and over the pontoon bridges, sandbanks had been prepared, iron sheets had been laid, even vehicles were moving. Those kind of arrangements had been made. But then this thought was always at the back of our mind that this is a day when we are here, when about 1 million people or about a couple more were there. But what would happen on the day when, as advertised by the government, about 100 million people are going to turn up? On the 14th, we did see scenes like these, which were almost like stampede. Our team was there. Two of my colleagues were there in the early morning when the sadhus had to go for their bath. It was almost a stampede-like situation last month itself. And we were wondering what it's going to be like when 100 million people are going to turn up. And apparently our fears have come.
And yet we know that this isn't the first stampede that's happened at one of these festivals. How is it that authorities still can't seem to create the controls that actually help disperse these crowds somewhat?
Well, Stephen, many arrangements had been made, and in fact, a large number of police personnel and paramilitary personnel had been deployed at the Mela grounds, at the fair grounds, covering a very large area, and they had been brought from all over the state, Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest state in the country. From all over the state, in fact, there were many policemen whom, when we used to ask how to reach a certain point, they were clueless because they were not local. They had been brought in from many parts of the state, and that sort of signifies the kind of arrangement, the kind of manpower that had been pumped into to prevent any unforeseen situations. But then, what we were always imagining, that 100 million people, that's a massive crowd, and no matter how many arrangements you make, it's still very difficult. We've had similar situations in the recent past. We've had similar situations decades ago as well. In fact, there was a very embarrassing episode that happened decades ago, and government tried to hide the actual numbers that had taken place in a similar strategy, but eventually the numbers did come out. Today, what we are seeing that now, sort of a media management has already begun, and people now, their local media reports are also are already trying to point out that things are normal now. But what has happened is that there are these akhadas at Kumbh. Akhadas are essentially congregations of sadhus or Hindu ascetics who have taken a vow of renouncing the world. Now, these akhadas, they have cancelled, the ascetics, the sadhus, they have cancelled the royal bath or the auspicious bath that they were supposed to take today. And local media reports are indicating that this is on the behest of the government, that they have called off today's bath, keeping in mind that there is a real threat of more incidents like what have been reported so far today, Stephen.
All right, DW correspondent Char Kartikeya in Delhi reporting on that stampede in northern India. Char, thank you. Aid agencies are warning